You both have unfinished feelings, and somewhere deep inside, you already know it. The conversations that ended too soon, the silence that still holds weight, the glances that said everything the words never did. Right now, there are 4 signs that what exists between you two has never truly ended, and you are already living every one of them. What you are carrying is not obsession, it is not weakness, and it is certainly not something you should feel ashamed of. Psychology shows us that when 2 people build a genuine emotional bond, one that goes deeper than the surface, deeper than convenience, deeper than the casual, that bond does not simply vanish because circumstances change, or because time passes, or because someone decided it should be over. What you feel right now, that quiet and persistent pull toward this person, is your nervous system recognizing something it has not yet finished processing. Your heart is not stuck, it is not broken, and it is unresolved. And unresolved connections carry a weight that most people misread. They look at the feeling and call it unhealthy. They look at the longing and tell you to simply move on. But psychology tells a different story. When 2 people share something genuine and never fully close it, the emotional system keeps the door open, not out of failure, but out of truth. There is something between you that has not been completed, and what has not been completed does not simply disappear. It stays present in your thoughts. It surfaces in the quiet moments. It makes itself known in the middle of ordinary days. And right now, it is showing itself through 4 unmistakable signs. The first sign: the silence between you still feels like a conversation. There is a particular kind of silence that only exists between 2 people who have shared something genuinely real. It is not the silence of strangers. It is not the flat, empty quiet of 2 people who have moved on and no longer carry each other. It is heavier than that, more textured. When you and this person go quiet, whether in the same room across miles of distance or through weeks of no communication, that silence is not empty. It is full. It holds questions neither of you has had the courage to say out loud yet. It holds feelings that are still very much alive beneath the surface. You feel it when you think of them and sense somehow that they are thinking of you too. You feel it in the space between what was said and what was actually meant. Psychology shows us that when 2 people have not fully processed their emotional connection, the mind continues the conversation even when the voices go silent. The silence becomes a living thing. It holds memory, it holds longing, it holds the shape of everything that was left unfinished between you. And that kind of silence, heavy, full, meaningful, is not the sign of something that is over. It is the sign of something that is still very much alive. The second sign: your body still responds to this person before your mind even has time to catch up. Before you have even consciously formed the thought, something in you shifts. Your heart rate changes when someone says their name. A song comes on and something in your chest tightens before you have connected it to them. You catch a scent, something familiar in the air, a season, a place, and for one brief, suspended moment, they are completely present. This is not nostalgia. This is not sentimentality. This is neuroscience. When a connection reaches a certain level of emotional significance, it becomes encoded not only in your memory, but in your body itself. Your nervous system holds the imprint of that person in ways that no amount of time, no distance, and no deliberate effort can fully erase. And the most important thing to understand about this response is what it reveals. This does not happen with people you have truly moved past. It does not happen with connections that have been fully processed and genuinely released. When your body still responds to the thought of this person, when your physiology still carries their presence even in their absence, it is not a malfunction. It is a report. Your nervous system is telling you something true. Something is still unfinished here. And if your body still knows them this well, the question worth sitting with is, does their body still know you? The third sign. Neither of you fully disappears, but neither of you fully shows up either. You know this pattern. You live it. One of you reaches out in ways that are just noticeable enough to be felt, but careful enough to be denied. One of you watches the other's presence without making it too obvious, or perhaps making it just obvious enough. One of you sends something that carries more meaning than the surface message implies, and then one of you pulls back. Then the other one does the same. Forward and then away. Close and then gone. This push and pull is not confusion. It is not mixed signals from someone who does not care. Psychology calls this approach avoidance behavior, the internal conflict that arises when a person genuinely wants deep connection but is also afraid of what that connection will demand from them. You move toward each other because the feeling is still real. You pull back because the vulnerability feels too big to risk. And in that dance, in those half moves, those careful reaches, those small but deliberate traces of presence, the truth is living right out in the open. Neither of you has fully gone. Neither of you has truly released the other. And the fact that you keep finding each other in these quiet, careful, half-spoken ways is not coincidence. It is your connection refusing to end on its own. The fourth sign. The thought of this person truly moving on still moves something inside you. You do not have to call it jealousy. You do not have to name it at all. But there is something, a small, unmistakable shift, when you imagine them choosing someone new, building a life, a future, a presence with another person. It is not always dramatic. It does not always arrive with pain. Sometimes it is simply a pause, a stillness, a moment where your heart does not feel neutral, and you recognize that it has not yet fully let go. Psychology shows us that when emotional detachment is truly complete, when a connection has genuinely been processed and released, the thought of that person finding happiness elsewhere creates neutral feelings, sometimes even genuine warmth for their joy. But when the bond is unfinished, when feelings between two people have never been fully expressed or resolved, that thought still moves you. It stirs something that was never completely still. And if you still feel that movement, that quiet, honest, unavoidable stir, then your heart has not accepted this as finished. It has not released its sense of possibility. And the real question is not just whether you feel this. The real question is whether somewhere, across that same silence and distance and time, they are feeling it too. Because when both of you feel it, the answer to that question is already known. These four signs are not accidents. They are not your mind playing tricks on you, or your emotions refusing to cooperate with logic. They are the honest, unmistakable language of a connection that has not reached its natural end. And here is the truth that most people are afraid to say out loud. Some connections do not end simply because two people step away from each other. Some bonds hold across time. Some feelings stay real across distance and silence, not because of fantasy, not because of wishful thinking, but because what was shared was genuinely, undeniably, deeply real. Here is what you need to hear right now, and it is something that does not get said nearly enough. You are not too much. The depth of feeling you carry is not a flaw. The way your heart refuses to simply move on, simply release, simply accept that something so real could just dissolve. That is not weakness. That is the mark of a person who loves with their whole self. And in this world, that kind of love is rare. It is valuable. Even when it is painful, it speaks to something profound about who you are. You deserve to be chosen, not half chosen, not chosen only when loneliness becomes too loud for the other person to ignore, not chosen only when it is comfortable or convenient. You deserve to be chosen fully, completely out loud and in the light. The fact that this connection has stayed alive inside you, that you are still here, still feeling, still open to what might be possible, tells the whole story of your heart. You have not given up on love. You have not decided that what is real is not worth the risk of being hurt again. Your feelings are not too much. Your silence has never been cowardice. You were never the problem. You were the one who felt deeply, who cared honestly, and who held space for something most people would have walked away from. That says everything about your character and absolutely nothing about your worth. But your worth was never conditional on whether this person chose you. You are already whole. You are already enough. And whatever truth is waiting at the end of these unfinished feelings, whether it leads back toward each other or toward a peace you have not yet found, you are strong enough to receive it. You deserve a love that is fully awake, fully present, and fully yours. Hold on to that. Not as a wish, but as the truth it has always been. So if this resonated with something real in you, if any of these 4 signs felt like a mirror, hit that like button and become part of the Psychology Wisdom family. Subscribe so the next insight finds you before you even knew you were looking for it. You are not alone in what you are feeling, and you never have to be.